What's up, y'all? Phantom here. And this is a guide that has been in the making for a very long time. I've been very on and off about it. I started this like maybe 2 years ago, and then I fortunately laid it off. But with the announcement of Twilight Lumina, and with Twilight Lumina also coming, I thought it would be appropriate to finally finish this project and be able to show you guys what I made with this. Also in this project, I've been working alongside Drive Oki for also a very long time on this project, so I'm very happy to have him here for this guide, explaining some of the sections and whatnot. Hopefully all the changes here will stick around for Time Luna, we'll see. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Before talking about his buttons, let's talk about his knife property. Shiki has a unique trait which allows him to deal chip damage with his knife normals. Alongside the chip damage done with his special moves, this chip damage can rack up a lot of great health and force your opponent to act on defense, making his offense much more threatening. He also has access to a double backdash, which sets him retreating nearly full screen away. This is unarguably the best backdash in the game, and you can use this to get out of unfavorable situations, reset to neutral after minus frame, or use it in general just for movement. This makes Shiki very slippery for most of the match, which can be troublesome for the opponent to have to deal with. Now with that out of the way, now let's talk about his buttons.
"5A" is a shin kick with a 5-frame startup, active 2 frames, which now hits low in this current version with the advantage of -1. This will be one of your main tools to rebeat alongside 2A, and this will also be one of your main ways to stagger, take throws, and become a major asset for your general start in your pressure and in your offense. 5B is a short elbow attack that slightly moves Shiki forward with its main purpose as a combo filler. Also has pretty decent range at catching IADs. With load shields causing a failed shield state on mids in this version, 5B has become a really strong option to present, with the frame data at -2 also making it a very solid reset point in pressure. 5C is the lunge stab presented with chip damage because of his knife property. It has pretty good range, and it's amazing in pressure with advanced movement. It also allows you to loop rebeat into buttons in the corner. In neutral, it's one of his farthest reaching buttons. However, due to long recovery and average startup, the usage is limited in neutral. Charge 5C, also known as the blowback edge of the normal 5C, is an enhanced version causing the property to become an unblockable attack. You must high shield in order to counter the unblockable. During Moondrive, the move becomes faster, and it's a really strong way to open up your opponent by playing with their reactions and crushing low shield attempts. One cool thing to note is you can partially charge this attack just before it becomes unblockable, allowing a strong mix-up with partial charge 5C into 2C, hitting them low while attempting to stand block. It's imperative to know while charge 5C is a strong mix-up tool, it shouldn't be overused and should be used wisely. Careless usage makes it less and less of a mix-up and more of a weakness. 2A is the standard Melty Blood 2A, also the baseline in all of your pressure. Similar with 5A, you will use this for tick throws, staggers, and in almost all foundations of your pressure. "2B is a 2-hit knife slash presented with chip damage because of the knife property. This is one of Shiki's best and probably one of the best normals in Type Lumina, being 7 frames and how active it hits, giving a lot of advantages with clash frames and scramble situations. It's a strong pressure reset tool, -3, and pretty decent knockback on block. The cool part about 2B, with its high hitbox, you can also use 2B as a way to anti-air most instant air dashes. This allows Shiki to have one of the strongest OSs in the game. That will be discussed in its own section. "2C, or as I like to call, the Never Skip Leg Day button, is a long reach and sweep that's 7 frames, which makes it the fastest sweep in the game. This button is absolutely strong in both offense and defense. In offense, 2C being 7 frames makes it hard for the opponent to contest in Rebeat situations, as you would need to reach and mash much earlier than other characters. In defense, it's reversed. It can be very easy to mash out of your opponent's offense because of its speed. As a trade-off, it has long recovery with your hurt box extended throughout, so be sure not to whiff this too often, or you may find yourself in uncertain situations. 2C is also one of your best starters, and coupled with using it alongside partial charge 5C, 2C, it's guaranteed one of your best buttons. JA is an upward jab that serves as your best way to air, in addition to being able to fully convert off a single hit. The angle and range of JA makes it one of the best air normals in the game, and very effective at that. Additionally, with JA, you retain your air options after whiffing it in the air, which allows you to jump again or press another button after, making it very low commitment to throw JA out preemptively. It's very important to be able to effectively JA in order to safely poke and punish bad air movement in neutral. JB is a downward slash that hits twice and also does chip damage. JB is your main instant air dash button hitting crouchers. Noting that hitting opponents crouching will have JB only hit once. It does have decent use air-to-air in opponents because of the angle it covers. JB's 2-hit property allows you to create situations versus clash frames and beating air approaches.
JB also has a very small cross-up hitbox that can make jump-ins much more annoying.
And unlike JA, you cannot cancel into anything on Whiff. In jump pressure, JB's 2-hit property can create gimmicky strings, allowing 3 hitting overheads, being able to JA after JB at a certain height, which can look very deceiving. JC is a downward kick that's your main jump-in button. It has pretty decent startup, good active frames to cover yourself in the air, and your main button to use in jump pressure. In neutral, it can be used to approach and to cover the area below you, preventing air-to-air attempts and run-unders. Similarly with JB, you are not able to cancel JC on Whiff into anything, so make sure that you place JC correctly so you won't get fully punished. Charge JC, the blowback edge of the normal JC, has a slight longer startup, creating benefits of clash frames and a ground bounce on hit. This allows additional protection to your jump in, and your opponents have to correctly react to the clash frames to avoid getting hit. You can also partially charge JC, which allows a very good feint option and baiting high shields. Last but not least, 3C is the universal Melty Blood launcher. With its speed and head invulnerability change in this version, it's a nice solid anti-air. 3C will allow you to duck jump-ins just as the active frames end and the following 3C punishes. If you ever find yourself in a clash scenario versus jump-ins using 3C, Not only Shiki can DP, he has the unique option to special cancel this clash into 214A. As the community would say, you would love 3C.
That was spooky.
Oh no! Stop.
Oh, that's
I heard you love 3. You would love 3C.
Playing safe.
All of them.
Safe Blockstring.
Phantom has
Who would love
Phantom has
3C?
It's kind of weird to like hit confirm with. Oh, you love 3C. Yeah. Instead of checking, going for the hit.
Oh, 3C! That's so good.
A is a short forward lunging slash that is air unblockable, safe on block, and crumbles on hit. At closer ranges, you could convert this crumple, and on counter hit you get a much stronger confirm. This will be your main poke in neutral due to its reach and speed, and being able to convert off with 214C, or even a full 2C conversion off a 236A hit on an airborne opponent makes this a really strong tool. On block, the distance you are away from the opponent allows you to easily disengage or sneak in a pressure reset as well. On defense, 236A will be one of your stronger abares against opponents that have slower but farther reaching buttons or specials. In offense, Rebeat into 226A is a fairly safe way to frame trap and catch feather jumps in your opponent's defense. The iconic Shiki 236B. This move is a far-reaching slash that's very similar to 226A, but much farther with surprisingly better frame data on block, with it being -2. With being air unblockable, as well as being safe on block, this is just your god special in neutral. Its far reach allows you to approach a neutral that most characters cannot contest, making this one of its most defining specials. In Blockstrings, it is a really strong way to frame trap as you can catch both backdash and fuzzy jumps. Additionally on block, since you are -2, you can use this to reset pressure. For example, you could introduce instant Airdash, jump, 2A 2C, which is a cheesy way to take your turn back by making this 2A potentially clash with their button only to be lost by the following 2C, very cheesy. Double backdash, which forces them to commit into a read of the double backdash, to then only loop back into the resetting of pressure, which can be pretty frustrating for their opponent to have to deal with, thinking that you will pressure reset or backdash out and play the neutral again. And finally, outright blocking it out, which is a very similar idea with the double backdash, in that you just play it safe and let them take their turn back, but then you can also randomly loop back into the resetting of pressure. But all of these are just a few ways to introduce pressure resets from most 226B. You can even be adventurous and even try beginning to shield or DP, but that's on your own accord if you want to be that adventurous. But the fact of the matter is that 226B is an insanely strong tool in neutral, which should give him the opportunity to begin offense from his potential pressure resets. 226C is his EX version of his 236X series that has that opponent fly across the screen for really good corner carry. This will be one of your main combo enders as it causes a hard knockdown and gives really strong Oki mid-screen. And the corner a wall bounce, which will allow you to continue your combo for more damage. This move, however, is very unsafe on block, so its usage would be typically limited as a combo ender. but it does have some small niche usage outside of combo enders. For one, it is Shiki's best starter, making it ideal to use after a heat or DP for a maximum punish. You could easily deal 4.5k up to 6k with the proper 236 MD starter. It's also important to know that 236E serves as a great punish tool to punish heavily disadvantageous moves, or as a way to whiff punish moves that are normally difficult to punish. But in general, you'll want to use the EX move as a combo ender, as it does the most damage out of his EX enders and has great corner carry. Boom Foray is a quick slide that has fast startup and the ability to record follow up after the slide. It serves as a very strong reset point because of it being -3. The threat of the follow up will beat out attempts calling out your reset and pressure. To add on to its frame data, it should be noted that no matter where you hit the slide, the advantage will always be -3. So delay 2-1-4A hitting the opponent late will leave your opponent in the same exact amount of block stun if you did it up close, which can visually discourage the opponent from trying to mash out of pressure. Outside of offense, there is some small usage with it in neutral. As stated previously, you can use 2-1-4A after a 3C clash to low profile their incoming aerial attack and special cancel safely, while also getting a very massive starter. Additionally, it is surprisingly viable to throw out 2-1-4A in neutral due to its active frames, fast startup, and quick recovery, and I'll go more into detail this in the neutral section. 2-1-4B is a slide that slides point blank to your opponent, is -1, and has the ability to record follow up after the slide. This move operates very similar to 2-1-4A, however its frame data and range it threatens after the slide make this much more stronger in offense than 2-1-4A, though it is to note that both of these 2-1-4 moves are very valuable with their own pros and cons. Outside of offense, there doesn't seem to be much usage elsewhere besides in combos. 2-1-4C uses EX slide that has him slide and automatically follow up, with this follow up launching very similar to his 3C. On block, this creates a very unique situation where the opponent is left in a launch state. Opponents can either remain in the air and fall naturally, or jump cancel after the 2-1-4C. This creates a very unique, though not extremely advantageous, situation for Shiki. You can do various things like play around certain spacings, reset pressure, or just use it as a safe way to stay more safe, like after a slide follow-up. Once again, this is not a truly advantageous state. You cannot stop the opponent from jumping here at all, unlike other characters. So you really need to play around what the opponent wants to do. For example, they could jump cancel Airdash, or simply land and mash. This is entirely RPS, so use some pressure wisely. A is a non-invuln DP. You don't really use this as an anti-air just because there's no invuln. And you don't really use this in any other circumstances. It's also extremely punishable on Whiff, and he cannot jump cancel after the DP. But it is actually very important in his combo structure. If you hit 63A at a certain combo height, you can actually pick it up with 5A or 2A. This goes the same with 63B as well. B is an invulnerable DP with 6 frame startup. Very standard DP, however it does hit a very weird angle and can be low profiled sometimes. Still, invulnerable DP is always great to have. He can also combo off of 63B with his 2-1-4-1C, making reversals have decent reward. 63C is also an invulnerable DP with 5 string startup instead of 6. Sometimes this extra startup matters, though you'll usually use 63B as your main reversal. This EX hard knocks down consistently, allowing for OKIZEME setups by using this as a combo ender. J226X series is essentially just a 6-3 but in the air with no invuln. Both A and B are nearly identical airborne DPs that are mainly used as either an easy air confirm or as a combo ender. And similarly with the grounded version, you cannot jump cancel this after on Whiff. J226C is identical to 63C in that it causes a hard knockdown, however it also does not have invulnerability. You'll be using this ender a lot more than 63C due to its routing to more damage overall because of the air string. Shiki's arc drive is a long slash that has invuln throughout. It actually can be used as a whiff punish, but if the opponent MD cancels, you cannot MD back and you're wide open. So please use it sparingly if you want to use it in this way. It also strangely has an unblockable property if you charge the arc drive, which can catch unaware opponents, but it is usually just a knowledge check, and nothing more. There is a small cheese factor that if you notice that the opponent has no moon, they try to hold shield only for the shield to run out and the arc drive to hit. I have been a victim of this and I thought I should mention it here just because. Unique to Shiki is whenever arc drive is activated, either on hit, on block, and even on whiff, Shiki gets access to new special moves known by his 22X series. These can change the flow of the game slightly with all unique tools for each scenario. Also, if your arc drive happens to kill the opponent, you actually gain these new specials for the entirety of the next round, which is actually pretty important to know if you want those specials to dictate how you want to play out the next round. Note that if you do lose that round, then you no longer have access to those specials until your arc drive again. Now let's talk about his new specials. 22A has him teleport a set distance on the ground, and on contact will hit the opponent overhead. On block, this is punishable by throw, but you can 2-1-4C to frame trap it, though it may be RPS. And on hit, you can convert off of A buttons, however the damage is not the highest. Because he has no invuln, you can get mashed on during this. It's also important to note that this overhead hitbox can only hit ground opponents, meaning if the opponent jumps, then you are wide open. The charged version of 22A is a feint of 22A. It does not teleport and instead continues to kneel in place until the end of the move. This adds an additional layer to 22A for opponents that expect the overhead and to create additional opportunities to reset pressure. Both specials are quite risky in what they do, however they do change Shiki's game plan enough that the opponent cannot sleep on the wheel, since now he has access to an overhead unlike before. Although it is a teleport, you can't really use it in a way to move around due to its high recovery after the teleport. There are very small knee situations, like Aki's rings, that you can move around under, but otherwise is rare to be used in this way. It can jump scare a conditioned opponent in neutral, although again its high startup and recovery, and the fact that I can only hit ground opponents and hurt using it in this way. 22B is a very far-reaching strike that starts up very fast and also hits low. This hits at a further range than those normal lariats, and with its speed and ability to hit low at any given time, the move alone creates an entirely new threat in neutral, as you get a full conversion off it on hit. However, it is quite minus and very unsafe on block, so you typically need to spend resources to make it safe. Moon Drive and 2-1-4C are your go-to responses on block, and it is possible to react to either the hit or block to then use said resource to stay safe. 22C is a series of huge slashes that are very active, hits are unblockable, and it's -1 on block. You can drift forward or backward in the slashes to adjust the movements. This special is actually quite strong in both offense and in neutral. In offense, it could be difficult to contest as -1 on block, simply due to Shiki's already fast buttons out of range, making it a decent pressure reset tool. The fact that he could drift during the special as well allows him to dictate what spacing he wants to be in, which can make the opponent uncomfortable as to which button to press to contest. Additionally, if the opponent's fastest button is 6 frames, then Shiki can press 2 to C point blank at them and play around the -1, this 2A being 5 frame startup and making the situation essentially +0. This can be a viable strategy usage for this special. There's overall a lot of ways to reset pressure after 2-2C, like air dashing, playing the space, 2C'ing again to catch the jumps. Just an overall versatile tool to add to his offense. In neutral, the hitbox it covers, the high amount of active frames, and it being air unblockable actually makes this a great anti-air. Even if you 2-2C on a timing where someone's jump dodges in time, there is a decent chance the 2-2C active frames can cover the landing of that jump to still clip them. On top of that, on air hit, there is a small extra hit bounce on the opponent, allowing to always easily confirm off any hit regardless of the height. You can also throw this out in grounded neutral situations, just to act as a wall for the opponent. Though you can't typically convert that easily unless you use a 2-1-4C, or if you hit this move point blank, you can 2A convert. .6BC is an enhanced version of its 2-6. It is essentially 2-6B, but it hits further and faster. It is -4 on block instead of 2-6B's -2. Good at its speed and reach, you'll use this moon skill if you really need a fast way to approach, which is very typical in a zoner matchup, as even a couple of frames faster than 2-6B can make a difference between hitting the zoner and getting hits yourself. 4BC is a unique version of 2-1-4 that works entirely different than its counterpart. Shiki does a low hitting slide that multi-hits from a long distance. If the slide hits the opponent, he automatically has a follow-up occur shortly afterward. Otherwise, no follow-up occurs if blocked. You can jump cancel on hit to convert off of it.
And on block, it is safe, but you are point blank from the opponent and -3. So your reset options are quite limited, like either backdashing or DPing.
In the corner, this follow up a wall bounce, allowing for extra damage in certain routings. It also has great corner carry if used in certain routes. Also builds a decent amount of meter, especially in Moondrive. It can be used very funnily in neutral, check if the opponent's blocking low, which actually does appear more often than you think. It is also quite active enough to essentially stop any ground approach they choose to run at you. But that is just about all the usage you get from this moon skill, not much else. In Moondrive, it can technically cheese an opponent trying to jump cancel shield on reaction, since their shield will whiff, and you can punish. Of course, do not overly rely on this tactic, especially if they know, since they can punish you in other ways. .3BC is a different version of 63 that has multi-hitting DP with no follow-up kick at the end, and is not invulnerable. On block, you can jump cancel after shortly, making it very safe overall and allows you to confirm off it on hit. Its input and quick startup makes it an okay anti-air or a reversal of sorts. In Moondrive, this is your main moon skill reversal because of its speed. J6BC is 3BC but in the air. You'll be using this a lot in routings like air confirms, MD routes, even side swaps. Otherwise, there's little to no neutral application with this moon skill, it's just mainly for combos. 2BC is a stronger version of his boundary peak 2-2A. It is overall much faster, more further reaching, and -1 on block, but you cannot jump cancel on block. On hit, you can jump cancel with combo, or you can combo similarly 2-2A. Unfortunately, this moon skill has no feint variant, so if they shield this moon skill, you have no way to respond back. This move is a bit weird to use overall. It's both risky to throw out, but also safer on block, which is a weird trade-off to think about. I would say this move is more used in neutral due to its further reach, and alongside having Moondrive active, can gain clash frames to make it safer to throw out. Also does have the cheese to bait jump shield. But you can kind of just throw this out in both offense and neutral, and kind of just see what happens.
Let's talk about Shiki Tono's neutral. Shiki has a very strong grounded game. His lariats are very strong in controlling the neutral thanks to its speed, and it being air unblockable can discourage the opponent from jumping. Conditioning your opponent in this way opens up more opportunities for more run-ups and general approaches like jump-ins and air dashes. In ranges just beyond 5C and 2C, 236A is a very strong poke that is difficult for opponents to contest outright. Depending on the spacing of 236A, you can also look to reset pressure if done at tip ranges. At further ranges in neutral stare downs, 236B is your preferred lariat as it naturally reaches a lot further. You can also use 6BC in the same exact way if you need the speed with the trade-off for being -4 instead of -2. If you're fighting against a zoner, this speed is very, very important. .236C acts as a great metered whiff punish due to its fast startup, speed, and range. If you want to actively scout for any whiffs, call out the eagle.
Don't whiff!
Hello? You're insane. You're insane. You're insane. How dare you whip?
.214A is also a unique special to use in neutral. Its frame data makes it essentially his 2C, but instead has incredibly high active frames, reaches further ranges, has low recovery, and even has a follow-up that can cover the air, and is also one of his best starters. It is essentially strong against other lariat type specials since Shiki advances while lowering his hitbox, making him have priority almost every single time and win against the incoming lariat. After Boundary Peak, he gains access to 2 more specials that can change his neutral, 22B and 22C. 22B is a jump scare low that does become his fastest lariat. Though it doesn't hit as high as his normal 236X series, opponents knowing this will be a lot more respectful in neutral and may choose to crouch block just to avoid the low, once again allowing more opponents to approach with the opponent conditioned.
I didn't even see. Oh.
22C is an excellent special for how incredibly active it is. Makes for a great anti-air, and it's just for a wall for the opponent if used in the right spots. Additionally, Shiki's set of great buttons like 2B, 2C makes him excel in short-range scramble situations. In the air, his JA hits at a great angle for air neutral. JC and Charge JC makes for a great jump in. And JB is extremely strong as a pseudo cross-up button, multi-hitting and winning most clash situations.
What? No, that's illegal footage, bro. Nope.
He also has one of the best 3Cs as he is stationary during it, unlike a majority of the cast, making his 3C angles much more convenient and common to hit. And he also has a great clash cancel when it does clash.
Receive. Nice. Great buffer.
While his grounded threat is a major strength, his area movement is much more limiting because his Airdash is the shortest Airdash in the entire game. This restricts how much he can maneuver in the air vastly. This weakness becomes especially more apparent in zone and matchups, where both his lariats aren't as easy to represent and also having a weak Airdash to punish bad projectiles. This is where Shiki can struggle the most. Because of this, it is important to be thoughtful about your jumps. Making the correct decisions when you move in the air with a high jump or any of the basic movement options is crucial in maintaining effective neutral. Even with these negatives in mind, neutral isn't impossible. Having an immediate approach tool to threaten any sort of projectile hesitation or just bad timing can still make the zoner less comfortable. The mid-range where you can threaten shield BC but also threaten 6 BC is a very strong presence. He can also rotate super jump at around his range. So this threat of 6 BC, shield BC, or super jump are all very present for the zoner that can make them uncomfortable.
Shiki's offense gameplay is quite simple, but there are many ways you can level up his offense and overwhelm your opponent with your fast buttons. I'll go through each game plan by levels. But before we start anything, let's talk about strike throw. Strike throw is the foundation to all offense. If your opponent is respecting your offense, then you should look to start layering throws more. If your opponent is mashing too often, then you should start layering frame traps more. These ideas complement each other, and it's very important to layer both together. You cannot throw without strike, and you cannot strike without throw. I'll briefly mention one of Shiki's throw Oki, since it is important to this idea. Shiki has a safe jab after throw by forward jumping with an air button and landing with 2-8 AD. And this can option select 5 frame DPs and normal heat. You can also air dash right before you land for a quick overhead. You can also throw it with IAD or back IAD. Mixes in well with the throws. In mid-screen, if they backdash a lot, you can opt to 2A, 2C instead. This Oki's pretty good and complements Shiki's strike throw game very well, while also being very easily loopable. He has more Oki, especially after combo enders. I'll leave that for another video. Now I'll start with the very basic game plan. This will involve his fast Rebeat with cancels and his 2 for B slide. So here is a basic block string that you can start off with. If you need a place to start with Shiki offense, this is a very easy game plan to run. Because of how fast his buttons are, especially his 2C, Rebeats are great on offense, as the opponent has to reactively mask just fast enough to beat the Rebeat reset. So if they're too slow, you win the interaction. You can also IAD after Rebeat whiffing as well, which is strong at beating low shield and low mash out attempts. Jumping is also an option. If they do want to commit to a mashup, then you can start introducing to 1 for beat, which is also a frame trap and can lead to a pressure reset. Opponents expecting and mashing on a Rebeat whiff will get frame trapped by 2 for a beat. If they block 2 for B, they now have to deal with Shiki's slide RPS of resetting pressure or frame trapping again with the follow-up. Another thing you can remember to add is his 5C unblockable and the partial charge. His unblockable is good at catching opponents off guard and beating low shields. The 5C partial charge to 2C low and catch opponents trying to stand shield for the unblockable. Partial charge 5C also acts somewhat as a delayed frame trap as well. They want to mash during that time. Overall, this integrates pretty well with the basic blockstring above, especially since 2C low will combo into 2 for beat. So in practice, against an opponent, if they're being more respectful of your offense, then you can start representing pressure reset. And then, when they start being a little bit more hasty on defense, then you can start introducing more frame traps more with 2 for beat. If they start blocking 2 for B, then you can start playing around the RPS of either resetting pressure or a frame trap. Then of course, whenever you want, you can introduce unblockable anytime. The next level up to this game plan is utilizing Shiki's button enders, or also known as no cancels. His 2B at -3 is insane for resetting pressure, with its great pushback and stagger window. Look how far back you go, and the stagger window, as I'll show you right here, is really good. It's really seamless in terms of staggers and just resetting pressure. It's really, really good. The pushback is also enough to discourage opponents from mashing, since it may be out of range where the button may whiff, and you can whiff punish. Additionally, because of the stagger window being so good, it makes pressure resets after 2B also very good. Here's a clip demonstrating how seamless the stagger window is for each of the pressure reset timings. You can also add this idea of 2B in the previous blockstring as well, just to keep it very simple. So instead of doing this, you now do this, and reset after this point to mix up your timing. So, or now you can branch off from the initial string that we had initially. 5B similarly is also great. The same idea as 2B, ending on that button. So same thing, instead of doing this, you can just do this, same idea, you end on that button. It's really, really good because it's -2 and it advances you a little bit. So you see, Shiki moves forward a little bit, so he's always in range almost. You can certainly almost get away with doing 5B into 5B again, just because of how fast it recovers. And just like any other reset, you can just do run up or ID after the 5B. So just like 2B, you can integrate it into the original blockchain we had. So instead of doing this, you can now do this. Reset pressure at this point. And now you should be able to start mixing up your offense timings with that one string, along with these button unders. So now you can just do this anytime, Airdash, or 5B again, just 5B again, or just go back to the original Blockstring. Really, really easy, and really important to mix up your timings. On the topic of timing, timing is very important in Shiki's offense, especially because of how much good staggered windows he has. Let's compare these two block strings. So here's the first block string. Now here's the second block string. Both strings are the exact same. However, one has slower timing. This slower timing not only allows for staggers for frame traps, it also helps with mixing up pressure reset timings. For example, if I do this string and end on 5A, the opponent's simply going to know that this is going to be the out. That's it. There's no threat in between. You're just simply doing the block string just to the block string. And then they use the 5A, and then they react accordingly. However, if you slow it down a bit, you can start to reset much earlier. So now I can do the 2B reset at this point, because it's more seamless. Same thing with 5B. And even going more further back, even 2A. Remember, strike throw is the foundation of all of offense. So now combining everything together, you can get a really good layered offense by doing this. Strike throw. 2B reset. Frame trap with the 5C. Unblock. Slide. IED. And he just loops it back to more. See, this is just, we have one basic block string, and now we can just simply mix everything together because of our different timings.
We're not keeping it static. We're not doing this every single time. We're doing that, but slower, allowing for other pressure resets to be really strong. Now let's talk about Midscreen Pressure and 236B. It was important to cover timing because 236B is very strong at catching timing. So like most characters in Midscreen Pressure, including Shiki's, their Midscreen Pressure is always pretty standard and it's definitely usually worse than in the corner. Because mid-screen, they have Backdash and they have up back. So in this case, they could just Backdash or they just up back to escape pressure. Shiki has a pretty nice way to beat these options. This is with his 2d6B. This will be Backdash. And this will be up back. It's a really strong frame trap because it hits in a delayed fashion and because it hits super high and reaches really far. What I like doing a lot in pressure mid-screen is adding a really long delay and then doing a 2d6B. First off, because Shiki has a lot of pushback on his Blockstrings, most buttons will whiff if they try to press on his offense. So if I do a 2B Ender here, and Roa does 2B, it'll just whiff. So they're really discouraged from mashing here, most of the time at least. So instead, they will opt for the easier option, and that's going to be Backdash or up back. However, by adding this delay and then 2d6B, it gives them an opportunity to think they escaped, but they're going to get caught by the 2d6B. That'll catch Backdash. I'll catch up back. The other string I like doing is the delay rebeat into 2d6B. Also works the same way. Can't really mash here. And if you try to backdash, we get caught. Now if you do this without any sort of delay, it can still work, but they may be more likely to just block since you did it too fast and assume it was part of the Blockstring. So if I did this really fast, it was just too fast. The opponent has barely any time to react to any gap, if a gap at all, and they'll most likely still be blocking at this point. In the corner, 2d6B is less useful, so this masher will be a lot more common. However, I still really like it as a delayed frame trap in a Blockstring. In my case, I really like using it after you allow rebeat resets, like this. If they're expecting another rebeat whiff, they'll want to try to mash or jump out on the next rebeat whiff, but they'll instead get hit by 2d6B. Because of its delayed hits and high hitting hitbox, it is really good at catching mashing attempts and also jump outs. I would say this usage is a little bit more niche in terms of actually using it in the corner for offense, but it is something that you can note. Now let's briefly talk about space pressure. Shiki will sometimes be pushed back a lot on offense, so you'll need to know how to play around the spacing. As you can see, he's a little bit spaced here. Same with this. For playing around the spacing, playing around with punishes is one thing you can utilize with this space. 2B's pushback alone can dodge a lot of 2Cs in this game. So doing 2B as a button under and waiting for an option is pretty strong. You can follow up 2B with 214A, which is important if you're running out of buttons in a Blockstring. And we'll go over more advanced Blockstrings soon. You'll slide in range, and you either instantly do it or delay it to frame trap. Two and 4A isn't as strong as 2 and 4B. However, since you are spaced, you can still play the spacing game a bit here, and a delayed 2 and 4A can trip up an opponent's advantage, like mentioned in 2 for A section. When you Rebeat Whiff, you're also decently spaced as well. So in the same scenario, you can also just wait here for a little bit. In any space scenario, I really like introducing delay 236A, like walking back and then 236Aing. Similar to 236B, by adding a little delay, you can't catch opponents wanting to jump out or mash just in time for your 236A to hit. And because you're spaced, they're discouraged from mashing. As you can see here, they don't really want to mash here because you're really far away. So a common option that a lot of people like to do is jump out. The final level is truly mastering Shiki's Blockstrings. You now should understand how to layer your offense, so this is the grand finale. First thing you should implement is stringing in different directions. So instead of the one thing I've been doing, like this, we're forced to Rebeat Whiff because we end on 2C. Instead, you can do something like this. Now we end on a B button. As we mentioned, button unders are great to reset pressure rather than ending on 2C and forced to Rebeat Whiff. Changing your string like this helps mix your Blockstring tremendously, and this seriously levels it up. The next thing is advancing. It's when you Blockstring in a way where your Rebeat 5A that would normally whiff will be hit on block instead. And you do this by stringing it with advancing normals to set this up. So here's an example. Notice how this 5A now hits on block rather than on whiff. This is a massive difference since 5A is hit on block, you now frame trap afterwards. When you Rebeat Whiff, you're locked into -2 to reset pressure. So what I mean by that is if you do Rebeat Whiff like this, you cannot frame trap after you whiff the 2A. You're locked behind being minus here. Whereas if you do the advancing string, you can continue the Blockstring. This makes pressure really strong, since you can start with 2A, threaten strike throw, and then represent it a second time with your second 5A, after a certain amount of time in your Blockstring. So you do 1 strike throw attempt. Now with the advancing string, you have another point to threaten strike throw. And remember, the most important thing is that you can't frame trap all the time on Rebeat on block, unlike Rebeat on whiff. If I have Rebeat on whiff here, and they mash, I will lose because I'm always minus. Rebeat on block, however, allows me to always frame trap. It's still pretty important to mix between Rebeat 5A on whiff and on block, since these two timings are pretty different. Rebeat on whiff is a much faster reset, but you're locked behind -2. Rebeat on block is a slower reset with more pressure reset and frame trap potential. Managing to mix between these two seamlessly in strings will seriously level up your Blockstring game. Now trying to figure out perfect strings, memorizing what buttons you need to press, and what the string is trying to accomplish is easily the most difficult part. Freeform Blockstring comes in time, but practice really does make perfect. Fortunately for you, I'll provide a variety of sample Blockstrings that you can refer to if you need a starting point. But when doing any sort of Blockstring, remember to always keep certain things in mind. For example, strike throw is always the foundation. Remember to always have strike throw in mind. Button unders are really good reset points as well, remember that. So 2B resets. Do anything after 2B. Rebeat on block, aka advancing, is also very strong. Allows for unique strings. And also remember that you can always play the spacing game and play for whiff punishes. And play around the space. Before we start, it's important to know that 2A and 5A are interchangeable in Blockstrings, since they're both lows. If you start with 2A, you want to use 5A in the later part of the Blockstring. If you use 5A, you want to use 2A in the later part of the Blockstring. Now I'll start with the very first Blockstring. I'll over-explain this one so you can get a general idea of what each point of the Blockstring does, and I'll rapid fire the remaining Blockstrings. In this Blockstring, it's about 4 reset points. The first reset point is after 2A. You can run typical 2A strike throw pressure here. The second reset point is after the 5A. Similarly with 2A, you can run 5A pressure here and run strike throw. The third reset point of the button under is 5B. You can do whatever you want after 5B. The fourth reset point is after 2B. You can also do whatever you want after 2B, whether you want to play the spacing, run up throw, ID, etc. And now finally, to frame trap for the 2B, you want to 2-1 for A. And now because you use 2-1 for A, you now could run slide RPS on the opponents, whether you want to frame trap or pressure reset. For the remaining Blockstrings, you should follow pretty similar ideologies. However, please note that you should not always reset pressure. Reset pressure when it is appropriate. If the opponent is mashing and you reset pressure, you will just lose. So remember to always frame trap, and then start introducing reset pressure. The next important and difficult thing that you need to do is starting a new string with a non-A button. Let's say you do this string. You want to reset the string on 5A besides doing like an ID or run up for a reset. You can start the string again with 5B, 5C, or 2C. Any of them really work well depending on your needs. The general string flow is pretty similar to previous strings, but the main difference is that you don't start with the A button. Those two A buttons are in the middle of the string, rather than starting with one. So now here's some sample non-A string starters. Do remember that you'll get pushed out eventually doing extended block strings, so some buttons might not reach as they did before. This especially includes 5A and 2A,
which can be good for mixing up Rebeat whiffs and Rebeat on block. Now there are millions of variations I could go through, but we would be here all day. So those are the best simple shapes I could provide for now. Once again, it's going to be really difficult trying to piece together different strings, so practice really makes perfect. For me, I've done it for so long, I can freestyle strings rather than plan set ones. And you can achieve this as well through practice. Now let's just go through some replays and clips, just to show you what my thought process looks like when running offense.
Shiki's defense is fairly simple, yet effective thanks to his strong set of buttons. Let's just briefly run down Shiki's defensive options. For ranges just beyond 2A, 2B is your go-to option with fast startup, good active frames, and a high hidden hitbox. Tubi is great at catching IEDs if timed properly. Because of this, it also makes for a great throw tech OS with 2B AD against certain throw baits. Alternatively, 3C is great at catching IEDs and jumps if you are fast enough. Similarly, you could throw tech OS with 3C AD. "2C is great at challenging slightly more space pressure. You can often react slightly late to a pressure reset and still interrupt the opponent thanks to its exceptional speed and range. If you need a slightly higher hitbox and slightly more range, 5C has you covered as a solid mashout. His DP naturally is very good on defense for close pressure. However, its lack in horizontal range can make it tougher to use against more space pressure. Beyond these ranges becomes slightly more tricky, but still manageable. 214A acts as a decent alternative to his 2C with greater range and recovery. Shiki's 236A can be used against space pressure with its great range, though it may be a bit slow to contest immediate pressure resets, so keep that in mind. In these situations, jump outs like up backing, super jumping, jump super jump, and Airdash are great at escaping pressure and either resetting to neutral or forcing your turn.
Now let's briefly go over Shiki's combos. His routing is very simple, but there's a lot of different variations. I'll keep it simple for this video. He has two enders, a midscreen ender and a corner ender. Midscreen, typically 1 to 3C into an air string, and end with J 2 to 6C. In the corner, you always want to end with a special into 2 to 6C, as it leads to the highest damage. You then end with air throw into a safe jump. For most of these combo demonstrations, I'll default to corner ender as most of my combos work in any position, unless clearly stated like corner only combos. Let's begin.
That should be a good amount of combos covered. If there are any combos I have missed, you can check out Ushia's combo doc or the wiki for more specific combos. Now let's quickly move on to OKIZEME. Shiki's main way to set up OKIZEME is with his 236C, 623C, or J236C. He has a lot of ways to set up left rights or safe jumps with any of these hard knockdowns. We'll just get right into it. Shiki has a lot of creative ways to set up Oki, and I can't possibly cover them all. These examples should give you a decent foundation, but don't be afraid to experiment and find new setups. And now we reached the end of the video. I hope this guide helped you understand not only what Shiki's tools do, but when and why to use them. With Twilight Lumina on the horizon, I want to create one final guide, cover everything I learned about Shiki Tono throughout Type Lumina. I really hope some of these fundamentals carry over to Twilight Lumina as well, but only time will tell. This guide has been an on-off project for the past couple years, so it really feels great to finally finish it. And special thanks to that boy Chia for helping me make this guide possible. He was my biggest inspiration for Shiki from the very beginning. It's a reminder of just how far this journey has taken me, from 2021 to 2026. And if you watch all the way to the end, thank you. I'll see you all in Twilight Lumina.